Welcome, friends and members of the How Institute for Society's next and latest How Conversation, where we look at issues and topics and dynamics in society, in our communities, in our organizations through the lens of how we do what we do. It's a distinct and personal pleasure and honor to have with us today Chip Bergh, the CEO of Levi's. Chip, welcome. I'm wearing my uniform for this conversation, a t-shirt that I'm proud to wear that you yourself sent me when I had the honor of spending some time with you and your wonderful global team of leaders at Levi.
Well, Dov, first of all, thank you for having me here, and it's delighted to be with you. I consider you a great friend and mentor and partner in many, many ways. So I'm delighted to have the time to spend with you today.
Chip, I should add in the introduction, and I should add that you and I are in common cause, and you are a member of the How Institute Board of Directors, and your wisdom and guidance as a board member, for that I'm thankful in an unbounded way. We're in common cause, and we're in common cause that business and leadership can be elevated in society. So again, great to have you.
Well, it's great to be here. You know, one of the great things about this company is we have a 167-year history of what we call profits through principles. From the very first year that Levi Strauss, the man who founded this company, made a profit, he gave a percentage of that profit back to a local orphanage. And this notion of profits through principles, that we're in business to do more than just generate profits, but part of those profits get plowed back into doing something good in society, has been part of who we are from the very, very beginning. And I would argue that our values are part of the reason the company has been successful for 167 years.
So let's just put this in perspective. In 2019, you had one of the most successful IPOs of 2019. Levi was flying high. You were flying high. Your stock price was flying high. Within months of that, tell us what happened.
Yeah, so you're right. We took the company public for the second time, actually. The company was public back in the 1970s, and then the family did the largest leveraged buyout in the history of Wall Street in the early 80s and took the company private again. And, you know, we had a number of really, really strong years in 17, 18, and 19, made the decision to take the company public again. And we had a very, very good run. We have had up till this current fiscal year, 7 fiscal years in a row of both revenue growth and profit growth, creating substantial shareholder value, but also stakeholder value as a result of that, because of our ability to plow some of the profits back into doing good in the world. And then the pandemic happened, and you and I were together in late February here in the Bay Area at this leader meeting. And at that point in time, we had already shut our stores in most of China. We so underestimated, even though we had visibility, because we're a big global company and we have a business in China. We had visibility to the impact that it had in China. And we were just in denial about how big of an impact it was going to have on us globally. So we came into this fiscal year with a lot of momentum. Our first quarter goes through February, and we had a really solid first quarter, even though the virus had an impact in China. You know, the rest of the company had a really strong first quarter. And then boom, the second quarter, we just absolutely got hammered. So we came into this fiscal year expecting that we were going to be a little bit over $6 billion in revenues. And, you know, so in a typical quarter would be $1.5 billion in revenues. And in the second quarter, we did less than $500 million in revenue.
Wow.
Our stores were closed for 10 of the 13 weeks of that quarter. Most of our big wholesale customers like Macy's and Kohl's were also closed during most of that quarter. And, you know, we were faced with maybe not quite an existential threat, but certainly a very, very significant threat to the business. And the choice fundamentally was, do we restructure the organization to reflect the reality of the fact that we're going to be a smaller company coming out of this, so that we can continue to invest in the things that are important to us and continue to, build the strength of the brand and focus on the things that will grow the company for the long term? Or do we carry a bloated organization and slash and burn everything else? And it was a gut-wrenching decision, but when we announced our second quarter results, we also announced that we were going to lay off about 700 management employees, which is about 15% of our workforce. And we tried to execute in the right way, and we can talk about that. But more importantly, this was about the sustainability of the company for the next 167 years, being able to invest in the things that make us worthy of being around for the next 167 years, and thinking about the remaining employees and the quality of the opportunities that they're going to have over the next several years. And that's why we landed with the decision to move forward as we did.
Take us into that world, how you went about it, the principles that allowed you to do your best to get it right. I mean, you and I both know that what makes something a dilemma is both choices are painful, both choices are bad, and you have to make a choice, but it's hard to feel good about either one.
I think it all starts with a little bit of humility and being humble and really listening to people and understanding what they were going through with the pandemic. And then transparency is also something that's really, really important to me. And so when we began to acknowledge that we were going to be a much smaller company, we kind of asked ourselves, what does success look like through the pandemic? Success looks like, number one, we continue to lead with our values, that everything that we do is purpose driven. And even if we have to make this difficult choice about laying people off, that we're going to do it the right way. We're going to do it in a very principled way and honor them. And so for example, we're laying people off into a global pandemic. Everybody who got laid off, even if they'd only been with the company 1 month, got 12 months of medical care. We let everybody keep their company computer and their company phone so that they could begin a job search, and for many people, their company computer is their computer. And so we tried to do things in the right way, and obviously had packages for everybody as well. But I was very transparent about the fact that we were going to have to take actions to contain our cost long before we actually executed this.
If you were put your teacher's hat on, and I'm hearing humility, I'm hearing transparency, obviously doing things with empathy, round out your playbook of you're in crisis. Crisis is not self-imposed, it's a pandemic. It came from without, not from within. Just give me the entire leadership playbook if you were really trying to impart it to others, now that you've had time to at least think of what got you through this.
Yeah,
I know you're still through it.
We're not through it yet. Yeah, exactly. I was just about to say that. I think, one of the most important things for a leader is to be visible at a time of crisis and to be honest. Truth really matters. I do this thing, it's basically a town hall, but we call it chips and beer. And, during a normal period of time, I do chips and beer on a monthly basis. We webcast it globally. It's pretty much open mic. People can ask me questions. I might have 5 or 10 minutes, a little bit of an update on the business and what I can share with respect to the business. And then it's open mic and people can ask me questions about anything. And I get questions all over the map, but it's part of how I stay in touch with where people are and, what's out there in the organization. Yeah.
Do you have an example of a question you got that was a between the eye question and how you answered it? And for others, how do you go about creating that type of environment where people can really ask for the truth and then you give it to them?
I would say the toughest questions I'm getting now are around the struggles that parents are facing with schools still being done remotely, so, and this is something that we really spent a lot of time on lately, is just the mental health of the organization through the pandemic. I've listened to a lot of employees over the last month or so in particular about this issue. And, I had one single mom, 3 kids, one a toddler, one a kindergartner, and one in 3rd grade, I think, or 2nd grade. And she's trying to manage 2 kids in school, a kindergartner who doesn't even know how to log into Zoom or, run a computer or anything, and a toddler running it around the house, and then still trying to do her day job and be on calls. And it's an impossible scenario for some people to manage. We've lost 4 women in the last month or so who, at least 2 of them, are just because they said, I'm failing at everything right now. I'm failing on the job and I'm failing at home, and something has to give. And so, we're really trying to be very values driven when it comes to this. We just announced yesterday that we're giving everybody a corporate day off once a month, an additional holiday, if you will, once a month, the last Friday of every month, 3rd Friday, if there's a holiday already on the 4th Friday. We've declared all Fridays to be no meeting days, so that people have alone time so that they can think, catch up on emails, do whatever they've got to do to get caught up. And we're about to roll out an entire program on wellness that just kind of takes wellness to the next level. But it's something that I'm really concerned
So you're getting
about.
to a really point, because in society, we're used to the distinction between some people are breadwinners and some people are caregivers. And there's something about this pandemic where we're all caregivers. We're caring for our children, our loved ones. And you and I have talked about humanizing business, that leading businesses are on a journey to put humanity at the center of how they do what they do. And if we see people as not just breadwinners, but caregivers, and we embrace and celebrate that part of what makes them human is their need to care for their children, for their loved ones. And
right. And I mean, this pandemic has such epic impact, I guess I would say. I want people who work for Levi Strauss to be able to tell their grandchildren someday how the company treated them during this period of time. I want them to be able to look back and say, the company did the right things. I like to talk about the harder right over the easier wrong. It'd be easy to say, we're not going to give more corporate holidays, but people need it right now to make it all kind of hang together. We talk about stakeholders. One of the most important stakeholder groups I've got are our employees, and taking care of them will just, amp up their commitment to the company and their loyalty to the company as well.
the pandemic, which challenged you profoundly and dramatically, also laid bare in society some deeper truths around societal inequalities and disparities, around racial injustice. On July 14th, you joined us for a virtual gathering of leaders, and part of what made the gathering memorable is that you spoke so compellingly and emphatically around what the pandemic laid bare in society, around racial inequality and what it laid bare for you inside Levi's as a company. And you just spoke to the heart of the group, and people are still talking about it. So I'd like to play a clip from that evening.
We have a problem with diversity in our company. We're very diverse globally. We're overrepresented with women. If you look at our US population by ethnicity, we're very diverse. But, big but, if you strip out our distribution centers and you strip out our retail organization and you really look at where it matters most, we aren't. We've got a problem. And I declared it publicly as a problem. And I take full accountability for it. It's probably the one place where I've failed more than any place. But we publicly committed to an action plan.
Take us into that world, and why was it a personal failure? What did you learn Where are you on this dimension of the journey? Because that's another crisis for you.
Yeah, well, it's a crisis for society as well. I mean, I do think, there has become a reckoning here, and I've done a lot of soul searching on this, a lot of introspection. After the George Floyd murder, we took a hard look at where we are as a company, and in our management ranks, we are not where we need to be. And the first step in making progress at fixing a problem is admitting you've got a problem, and that was the very first thing we needed to do. But we are, particularly with the Black community, we are significantly underrepresented. We're at about 3% of our management population here in the United States are Black leaders, and none in the senior ranks. I don't have any direct reports who are Black. There's no Black leader on our board of directors. And those are glaring holes. And we're going to fix it. And we're going to fix it because it's the right thing to do. I believe we're not as good of a company as we could be if we were as diverse as we should be. And I really do believe that a diverse organization at all levels will outperform a homogenous one every single time. One thing about this company that I can say quite definitively is when we set our mind on doing something, we get it done. And, we have declared that we published our diversity data. We are very transparent, back to this point about transparency and truth. We are very transparent with our data. We will publish our data on an annual basis, and we better make progress. And I will be held accountable for making progress. And I will hold myself accountable for making progress. And I'm confident that we will. We also publicly declared that we are going to add a Black leader to our board of directors. That search is on. We're making really good progress. I'm very excited about the candidates that we've already met. And it will make us a better board.
What impact has it had on your team that you have embraced this as a personal failing and been so direct, candid, and raw with them that this is a personal failing? Do you feel that it's been an invitation for them to take responsibility and accountability around areas that they control, and it's created even more honest dialogue about aspects of how you're running the company?
Well, I would say that one of the positive outcomes of I would call it the movement, both at a national level and then inside the company, is that a real voice has been given to the Black community. Part of what's made this hard for us is on the outside, externally, we stand for equality. We desegregated our factories 10 years before the Civil Rights Act when we had factories here in the United States. We've contributed over $35 million in the last 5 years to organizations that are focused on social justice and racial equality. And 85% of the organizations that we funded are led by people of color, Black or brown leaders. And so this is a big part of who we are externally, yet internally, we weren't where we needed to be. So it's given voice to the Black community internally. And I've spent a lot of time just listening and empathetically to what they live every single day. And what has been hard for me to hear, honestly, is not just the challenges that they have outside as a Black person living in San Francisco, but inside this company, the challenges that they face, the microaggressions, the racial biases that they face, the fact that they feel that they have to conform to a mold, that they can't bring their true, authentic self to work every single day, the fact that they can't look up the hierarchy of the company and see somebody like themselves. All of these things make it more difficult for them to be successful. And that's on me. As the leader of this company, I can fix that. And I can drive the change through the organization to address those issues. And I feel an obligation to do that, to set them up so that they can be successful. Nobody should have to go to work feeling like they can't be themselves, that they can't bring their true authentic self to work. So this word authenticity is kind of a key word. And people being able to be their authentic self is part of what the Levi's brand is all about. It unleashes people's ability to be their true authentic self. And yet I've got employees saying, I can't be my authentic self today at work because I have to fit into a mold. And we talk about, there's a lot of talk about systemic racism in the country. And as we've talked about this internally, we've landed on a construct which I actually like better, which is structural racism. Systemic racism suggests that it's natural. We have weather systems. Structures are man-made. And everything about racism in this country traces to man-made structures, whether they're laws or just traditions. They're man-made structures that have created racism. And we've got structures in this company that we have to go back and really break to really advance the true cause of diversity. So we are where we are because of the structures that we've got, whether that's how we hire people, how we promote people, how we pay people, how we assignment plan people. All of those are structures that we've got in place. And we've got to go back and challenge every single one of them, because if we don't, we're just going to keep getting the same results. And that's part of what it's going to be.
I think the distinction is compelling, and there's also structures of thought. There's structures in ourselves, how we see things, our thoughts, our assumptions are structured. They've been taught to us. So there are structures that are out there that have been built, but there's even structures to how we think and how we come to assume what we assume, and how there's structures to what we emphasize in making distinctions. There are structures in what allows us to believe that a system is fair and meritorious when it might not be. So it also seems like you're attacking the internal structures of our thought processes.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, that speaks to the whole unconscious bias and everything else. Those are structures inside our brain that, have trained us through the years to be the way that we are.
Take everything you've been saying together. It relates squarely to a general broad statement you've made that CEOs and companies have a role to play to make the world a better place, to make society better. Speak to that. Well, why are you so confident in saying that business is not just business? Why are you confident in your proclamation that business has and should play a role making the world a better place, making society more just, for example?
Well, so first, I think somebody's got to do it, and governments are pulling away from it. NGOs are pulling away from it. Our structures, our systems, of governance around the world are failing us, I think, particularly true here in the United States right now. And I think somebody has to fill the void. But I believe that CEOs do have a platform. I stepped into a company as CEO where there was just this long legacy of the company not being afraid to stick its neck out on important issues of the day. And so, part of my lens in deciding where do we take stands is, will history prove us to be on the right side of the issue 10, 20, 30 years from now? So that's what led us to taking a stand for ending gun violence. It is ripping this country apart. It becomes even more clear as time goes on. And young kids today, their worldview is shaped by the threat of gun violence in school. My daughter's school, when they're in school, they practice lockdown drills more than they practice earthquake drills in this. And we live in San Francisco.
What is your philosophy that allows you to pass judgment on the future? Values are part of it. If you're not trying to be everybody's friend and you're not trying to please everybody, then you need to stand for A, B, and C and say, the people who should be our customers and our stakeholders and our suppliers and the people who should work here have to stand for A, B, and C. That's what we're about, right?
Yes. So a couple of things on that. First, we can't stand for everything. You know, and it's very tempting for a company that is very socially active and engaged. It's very tempting for every issue that comes down the pipe to want to take a stand for it. But if you stand for everything, you stand for nothing. So you have to choose your spots, number one. Number two is we do use this lens of, you know, what really matters when it comes to the world today and to society today, and where will our voice make a difference? You know, this ending gun violence. Remember, I served in the military. I swore an oath to the Constitution. I'll raise my right hand. I swore an oath to the Constitution to defend the Constitution. And, you know, everything that we said is not about repealing the Second Amendment. It is just about ending gun violence. You know, simple things like national background checks, federal background checks. The majority of gun owners support that. And it's proven to reduce gun violence. Red flag laws are also proven to end gun violence. A couple of laws like that could make a dramatic difference.
This whole notion of Chip Bergh, he's a business leader. No, you're a leader. Your platform is business. You're leading a business, or you're standing. I mean, our community says that a person needs a place to stand and a lever with which to move the world. You stand in the context of business. You stand on a business platform, but you're leading. You're leading people to delight customers. You're leading on issues. And I want to thank you for just opening your heart, and with the same empathy that you're using to make difficult decisions, you're sharing learnings and your own journey. So in a more rapid fire way, I just want to just ask you some questions. You spend some time in the military. What lesson or two from the military allows you to lead in this new context that others can grab a hold of too? And then we'll go on to some other quick topics.
I've actually got something on LinkedIn that people could look up. I called it the top 10 lessons I learned in the military, but I learned as an officer, always eat.
We will link to it. We will link to it on this chat.
Great. Always eat last. As an officer, you're taught to always eat last. I had a battery commander who told me always walk with a sense of urgency. And I actually expanded that concept to always operate with a sense of urgency. It creates a sense of urgency in others. You know, another military principle is take the high ground. It's true from a military standpoint, but it's also true morally, right? Take the moral high ground. The last one I'll share, and I've got, you know, a long list of them, but one of the other ones that I like is always walk the track park. Now, the track park in the military is where you park all of your military vehicles, your tanks and everything else. And what that quote really refers to is you can tell a disciplined unit just by walking the track park. Are the vehicles parked straight? Are they parked lined up? They have full tanks of fuel. Are they clean? Are they ready to go to war at a moment's notice? And if the answer is yes, you've found a disciplined military unit. If the answer is no, there's no discipline. And it's true in everything.
Yeah. Every time I've been invited so warmly to spend some time with you and the Levi team, you've asked me to tell a Levi story, which is easy because I was born in San Francisco and all that. But
yeah, your story.
You have countless Levi stories, but tell me one quick Levi story that maybe somebody doesn't know.
Okay, my favorite Levi story, when I was a young second lieutenant in the Army, the very first military leave that I took, my first vacation, I did a Eurail pass trip through the Nordics, you know, and everybody knows what that is. I stayed in I had a backpack. I stayed in either, you know, in a tent, in a campground, or in a youth hostel. And I was in Bergh, Norway, staying in a youth hostel. And if you've ever done those kind of trips as a young kid, you hop to clean your clothes. You hopped in the shower with your clothes on, soaked yourself down with your clothes on, washed your clothes, rinsed them out, rinsed them, and then hung them out to dry. So I went into the hostel bathroom, took my wallet out of my back pocket, put it on the window, hopped into the shower with my Levi's and white t-shirt on, soaked them all down, rinsed them all out, hung them out to dry, and went to bed. And I woke up in the morning and I realized I left my wallet with all of my cash on the windowsill.
Wow.
And I ran into the bathroom. The wallet was there and the Levi's were gone.
And here you are, the CEO of Levi's. It was meant to
True
be.
story. Absolutely true story. That was the power of the brand back in the late 70s, early 80s in Europe.
Yeah. How many hours of exercise have you done so far today?
Only
And
one.
I asked that because only one. I think you also spend a lot of time being healthy so that you can lead, right? And I think that's an
Yes.
important lesson. You know, you gotta take care of yourself and be strong and be resilient, right? That's a big part of.
Yeah, resilience is a key word right now during the pandemic, and I think it's especially true during the pandemic. And you know, we talked earlier about mental health during this period of time too, but I've always kind of considered myself an athlete, and you know, played sports as a kid, and so exercising and wellness, taking care of myself, has always been really, really important. My wife and I have a saying where we want to have a long, healthy life together, and so it's one of my core values is taking care of myself.
And last, you know, you and I talk often about the pause, that to lead others, we need to pause, to reflect on something going on in the world or the situation we're in, to reconnect with our values or deepest beliefs, to rethink an assumption that we're operating under, or to reimagine just a better tomorrow or a better path. And that to pause, you have to ask yourself questions, to be Socratic with yourself. So what do you ask yourself when you're pausing to really get at what matters?
So I love this concept of pause. Actually, you've taught me a number of concepts, and pause and pivot are two of the concepts that really stick with me. But I have it right here. I keep a journal every single day, and it's kind of been interesting reading through it. You know, during the pandemic, we're now nearly at day 180, and just flipping through kind of the transformation that's happened during the pandemic. But I try every single day to just kind of step back on the day and ask myself, did I make a difference today? And you know, did I touch somebody? Did I make a difference in somebody's life today? Was I helpful to my team today? And am I thinking enough about what's around the corner and where are we going? And you know, are we making the kind of difference that we need to make? And then every day I do try to reflect on, am I living my values? And am I visibly leading by example and making a difference in how I lead? So
what an incredible, Chip, articulation of humility, just in terms of your own inner life and your inner journey, just being your own work in progress. To be so successful as you are, and to be such a work in progress.
We all are. We all are. None of us are perfect.
We all are, but to be self-consciously a work in progress as you're got so much on your plate and you're leading so broadly. So thank you for sharing wisdom. Thank you for sharing insight. Thank you for your friendship. Thank you for being a wonderful member of the Howe Institute for Society board. And it's good to be in common cause, and thanks for enriching us. It's been great.
You're a brother in arms in all of this. So thank you for all that you're doing, Dov, and for the impact you've had on me. So it's mutual. And thank you for everything.
It's really mutual. Happy to wear this today. Great.
Excellent.